What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Eddie. My last name is Meritz. And where am I from today? I'm from our house, which is in Northeast Pennsylvania, very rural Northeast Pennsylvania.
What first got you thinking about getting dental care abroad?
Yeah, I had seen a couple of local dentists here. I had some issues. Let's see. Yeah, I had issues basically, and I went to two dentists here, and they, to be really honest, they were thorough. They were really good, right? But they came up with a number, maybe it's $22,000, something like that. And I thought, oh my God, I have to do this. And my wife and my son said, no, there are alternatives. You should really think about other alternatives. And I went, okay, yeah, that was a good idea. Because sometimes when, let's say, dentists or doctors say, here's what you need to do, I just say, okay, I'll do it.
What made you feel confident in choosing Globalcare?
So I did some internet searching, and Globalcare was one of the sites I went to, and also they were, whoever I spoke to, I forget his name, was immediately responsive. In other words, there's nothing like presence, like when you show up, it was prompt. I mean, maybe an hour or two, and I thought, okay, these guys are on the case.
What other options were you considering before finding Globalcare?
Possibly, I looked on other platforms, but Globalcare made it pretty easy to decide, and a lot of it had to do with Alan calling me back right away. When whatever the business is, showing up, it's just everything. So the answer to your question is, I may have looked elsewhere, but I did not. I made a decision very quickly based on not just Alan calling, but also the nature of the conversation. Like I felt like he was acting in my interest.
What influenced you to decide to receive dental care abroad?
And one thing that really persuaded me, saying what city am I going to go to, was when I chose Guadalajara. I got a call, or I made a connection through Alan with Dr. Alfredo at Pro Clinic, right? And Dr. Alfredo got on the phone with me. He got on the phone with me. Yeah. Oh, Dr. Alfredo's busy right now. And I said, okay. And he got on the phone. So I asked my questions about materials and process and procedures. And it's quite possible that I talked to him more than once. Not so much I don't think it was out of insecurity. I forget what the issue was. But again, it's showing up, right? It's showing up. So that, and he spoke with a lot of confidence. He understood what was going on. I sent him some imagery.
What would you tell people based on your experience about traveling for dental care?
Globalcare was there. I mean, right from the start, as I said, got called back. Now, here's what I want to say about that. We know that all really good businesses, right? I'm not going to flatter you too much. They start from the top, and it's the same thing in Pro Clinic, and in my work, like, sure, it isn't hierarchical, but when you have a great dentist or a great person who's managing a company, then it just builds confidence. And that's what I would convey is you could be confident.
How did your dental treatment turn out?
Yeah, definitely, but there was a wrinkle, and I think maybe you don't know about it, but so when I arrived at Pro Clinic, I was told Dr. Alfredo was not there. He was with his mom in Miami who had a stroke. And I thought, oh, wow, that's interesting. Or that's like, what are we talking about here? Like, how's this going to come together? So, I'm pretty poised. I can also be a little bit cautious and rattled at times, but I forget Dr. Felipe's surname, but he was there, and he was actually the surgeon, because that's the kind of work that needed to be done. So we had Dr. Felipe was on the phone with Dr. Alfredo. By now they had imagery, right? And the three of us, we had at least, I think we had 2 3-way conversations, and they were really about a strategy that was not really, the dentists here were going to do like what turns out to be something really unnecessary, you know. And through conferring with Dr. Alfredo and Dr. Felipe, we came up with a strategy. And so even though, and I know Dr. Alfredo was sorry not to be there. What are you going to do? But he was well covered, and he didn't. And Dr. Alfredo doesn't do surgery anyway.
Okay.
So they went to school together. They worked together all the time. So I was completely settled.
How would you compare your experience in Mexico with what you might have received in the U.S.?
I got really, really, really good quality of care, and I do have a capacity to exaggerate. But when it comes to my health and situations like that, I got, excellent, very thoughtful, one thing that they were both like extremely careful and they were just really good. Like I never felt like, oh, we got this, no problem. It wasn't like they were coming up with problems, but they were just super competent, I don't know how much you know about medical business, but a lot of people who go to doctors say, oh, he's a really nice guy, or she's a really nice guy. That's not enough.
Yeah, that's true.
You could be trained, you could learn that aspect of the work, but you have to be really good at your job. And there is absolutely no question. Like I spent at least 3 days in the chair there with Dr. Felipe, and I just had every confidence.
If you could summarize your trip in one phrase or sentence, what would it be?
I went through the gate and into the door. I felt immediately comfortable. I was welcomed, and they took some pictures. I made a real connection with not just a dentist, with a person. So I would just say, arrival at Pro Clinic.
What was the highlight of your trip in terms of receiving care and the overall travel experience?
Just arriving in a new city. The highlight to me is really arriving in a new place. And in this case, I arrived on my own. So when I'm working on a film, I've got a crew and everybody's there. And one of the great highlights of the second trip was that I had more time to explore. So that was a highlight for me.
Would you recommend Globalcare to a friends or family?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend Globalcare, especially people are facing big bills, but it's really not a question of the bill. Sure, it's a question of the bill, but by the same token, where are you going to get dental care for not only great care, but for an appropriate price, what I know, I don't know everything about Globalcare. I don't know how wide, if you're global or not. The one wrinkle for a lot of people is, in my work, I've traveled for like 40 or 50 years. So I've been all over the world. So going to Mexico was not a problem for me. All my friends said, oh, you'll have a vacation. Well, Guadalajara is not exactly a vacation city. I could have gone to any other place. I could have gone to Mexico City. And I think I was persuaded by talking to Dr. Alfredo. Dr. Alfredo. Yeah. So yeah, no problem recommending Globalcare. I already have.